Swimming is very simple. There are only two ways which can make you go forward. One of them is kicking and one of them is pulling. And your goal is to try and pull as much water behind you as possible. A lot easier said than done. So in today's video, I'm going through the top 4 pulling mistakes so many swimmers are making so you can avoid them and become a faster swimmer. So let's jump right into it with mistake number 1, which is not finishing your pull. And this is probably the most common mistake as it actually makes you feel like swimming is easier. So if we have a look at this quick example, in this case it's myself, so I did loads of different demonstrations so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. But you can see how here, right now my elbow is coming out of the water first. So usually to fix this problem, it's a very, very simple fix. All you have to do is make sure that the palm of your hand is coming out of the water first, not your elbow. So you can see here how my elbow is coming out of the water first, and I still have all of this water that I could be pulling. So the general rule is you have to make sure your palm, first of all, comes out of the water first. You are pulling all the way past your hip and your thumb is brushing past your thigh. Those are the 3 kind of things you can focus on to make sure you are finishing your pull. Now, the reason we want to make sure we are finishing our pull is because, as mentioned at the beginning of the video, our goal when we swim is to always try and maximize the amount of water which we are pulling. If you are letting your elbow come out of the water first, as shown in the video, you are simply not maximizing the amount of water that you could be pulling. So it may be harder to start with, so it might feel like you are actually wasting more energy whilst you are swimming, but the more you do it, the more you practice, the better and the more efficient you'll become at swimming. So guys, to give you an example of exactly what I mean, so if we just compare these, you can see how here my hand is going right past my hip. So if I just go forward here, you can see how my hand has gone past my hip and you can see how my thumb is brushing past my thigh. So if I just let you guys watch that in slow motion, you can see how I'm grabbing onto the water. I've got a nice high elbow catch, but most importantly, I am pulling all the way past my hips. So I cannot emphasize this enough. When you are swimming, always make sure you are stretching all the way forward and then focusing on pulling all that water behind you. Reason being, the more water we pull, the more forward we go. Moving on to mistake number 2, which is pulling with a straight arm. First of all, guys, I know this is not a topic of the video, but have a look at his head position, eyes looking directly down at the bottom of the pool, which is exactly what we're looking for. But besides the point, let's have a look at this video and see exactly what I'm talking about a straight arm pull. So you can see right here, right now, my arm is completely straight. There is no high elbow catch. My arm is just completely straight going through the water. Now, the reason we want to avoid this and the reason this is so bad and the reason why we must always pull the water with a nice high elbow catch and a bent arm instead of straight arm is because, as you can see here, right now I am initiating my pull. You always want to think about where your palm is facing. Right now you can see my hand is facing directly at the bottom of the pool, meaning if I apply pressure whilst my hand is facing down, my palm is facing down, sorry, that will send my body up. As I have mentioned, your goal is to always make sure you're doing everything in your power to send yourself forwards and forwards only. As soon as there is any movement up or down or side to side, you are immediately wasting your time. So that's the reason why we want to get into that high elbow catch position as early as we possibly can. You can see here how my arm stays completely straight. So right to this point, right now, all of this pull has just basically been me pushing against the surface of the water, which has been sending me up instead of forward, which is where I need to go. Even though I finish my pull, I do not pull the water correctly. So very, very important. Now, the second reason why we always want to make sure we are trying our best to avoid any straight arm pulling is because straight arm is not going to be as strong as a bent arm pull. A great example I like to use is yourself getting out of the water. If I asked you to stand on a side of the pool and told you to get out of the water with your arms completely straight, you simply would not be able to do it. This is because you are very, very weak in that position. If you just bring yourself closer to the wall and bend those elbows, getting out of the water will be a lot easier. Now, this is the exact reason to why we always want to make sure we have that nice high elbow catch, because we are simply stronger in that position than just ripping through the water with a straight arm. And moving on to mistake number 3, which is pulling the water with your wrists. Once again, let's watch the video nice and slowly so you guys can get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. You can see how, first of all, my body position is not very good. You can see how my arm is staying straight, and then I'm trying to pull the water with my wrist. Once again, our lats and our shoulders, which is what we should be using when we swim, are going to be much, much stronger than just trying to use our wrists. If we continue watching this, you can see how I'm almost creating this scoop-like movement with my hand. Okay, you can almost see how I'm just trying to grab the water like this. The best way to fix this is to simply imagine that from your fingertips down to your elbow is your paddle. This, from here to here, should never, ever move. If we go back to our good example, you'll be able to see, so right now you can see I fully extended, my arm is staying perfectly straight. Okay, and now I'm pulling the water. I've got my high elbow catch, and you can see how my wrist has not moved at all. I do not want to do any of this. I do not want to move my wrist side to side. I'm not waving to anybody. My goal is to keep, once again, from my elbow down to my fingertips as strong as possible and make sure my hand stays and acts as a paddle. Now, not only is this going to make it very hard for you to pull the water, but it's also going to be very hard for you to finish your pull. As you can see here, because I've bent my wrist and I'm trying to scoop the water rather than pull the water, it is now also causing me to bring my elbow out of the water first, which is something we discussed at the beginning of the video. So it's almost like a dominoes effect. I do one thing wrong, which will then affect the rest of the technical points that I could be focusing on. And last but not least, yet another very, very common mistake is allowing your elbow to drop whilst you are pulling the water. Before we even watch the video, you can see right now how my elbow here is leading my pull. So meaning I'm trying to pull the water with my elbow. As discussed previously, our goal is to make sure we are pulling with our paddle, which is from our fingertips down to our elbow, meaning rather than our elbow and our hand being at this angle, it should be the opposite and should be right here instead. And that is causing me to pull absolutely no water. A very simple fix for this is just to make sure you are trying your best to initiate the pull with a nice high elbow. And you can see I have a nice entry, my arm is nice and straight, I'm extending forward, but you can see right now, rather than letting my elbow come up, I'm doing the opposite by letting my elbow drop. So I'll let you guys watch that very slowly. Once again, you can see here, so rather than having my elbow up here nice and high, my elbow has now dropped. So right now in this freeze frame is where I have started pulling any water, because right now this is the first point at which my palm is facing behind me and at which I'm actually sending water behind me. If we go back, you can see how throughout this whole movement, my palm is either facing up or it's facing to the side or it's facing down. So as mentioned earlier on, try to get that palm facing behind you as early as you possibly can. This will help you pull the water behind you rather than anywhere else. So guys, I hope you found this video useful. Those are the 4 things you must avoid if you want to pull the water correctly. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. And I would love to see you guys back for another video, and I'll see you guys soon.